It's time for a Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it because you did.
On Giants.com.
You know what I saw? New York Giant pride.
And the Giants mobile app.
17-14 is the final. One touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. Have some fun.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Wednesday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. Paul Dottino and Marc Malusis with you today. We have gotten out of the snow. Yeah, we needed some shoveling to do, but
still cold.
It's ice now. If you didn't shovel it originally over the weekend, you weren't getting out.
Well, then you weren't getting out of the driveway to begin with.
No. The igloo was going to imprison you like a criminal.
There's no doubt. But now if you walk outside, you don't even want to be outside. It's like 10 degrees, 12 degrees outside. It's brutal, Paul.
Thank goodness for the field house.
Yeah, you're getting your miles in.
Anyway, our phone number is 201-939-4513, 201-939-4513. You can also find us on the New York Giants page on YouTube, as well as the Giants app on your mobile devices. And you can always hit us up on Twitter at #GiantsChat if you prefer. Archive of the show is available on all of your favorite podcast platforms, Giants.com/podcast, and the Giants mobile app as well, if you're not tuning in live this morning. Folks, we got a very busy show today, and I'm sure a bunch of you would like to call in. We're going to talk to John Schmeelk down at the Senior Bowl. We'll do a quick review on some of the prospects of the Shrine Bowl, which I think may be of some interest to the Giants because of thin spots on their depth chart. We're also going to talk about Todd Monken, reportedly now going to the Cleveland Browns as their head coach, which, if you believe all the things that have been written over the last few weeks, does change things for the Giants just a little bit. And we will also talk about Bill Belichick, yes, former Giants defensive coordinator and special teams coach before that, let's not forget, snubbed, apparently, in the Hall of Fame battling. First ballot Hall of Famer for sure, but apparently not for sure, because there were some people who wanted to do him over. So I open the floor up to you, Mark. Of those four things, what would you like to address first?
I guess Monken. I think with the reports coming out this morning that Todd Monken is expected to be the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. I mean, that was the Giants this offseason. A lot of things have broken their way. And if you believe everything that was being said and the rumors that, with John Harbaugh now as the Giants head coach, that Todd Monken, if he didn't get the job in Cleveland, was going to be the Giants offensive coordinator, Paul. That this is a hit. There's no doubt about it. Now the question is, where exactly do the Giants pivot? There's a lot of offensive coordinator positions open. We already saw Brian Daboll, the former Giants head coach, land down in Tennessee to pair up with Robert Saleh
as the OC,
as the offensive coordinator, to go out there and work with Cam Ward, the number one overall pick last year's NFL draft. So we'll see exactly where the Giants go out there, and John Harbaugh goes out there, and this administration goes to pivot to find the offensive coordinator to work with the most vital, integral part of this team moving forward, and that being the quarterback, Jackson Dart. Because anytime you looked at this team and this organization during the offseason, after the decision was made to move on from Brian Daboll, is that when you have the franchise quarterback, and the Giants do, Paul, as you know, as we all know, in Dart, right, the question is, how do you develop him? How do you continue to go out there so where he is able to reach his full promise and potential in the National Football League? The belief was it was going to be Todd Monken, nothing official, but that seemed to be the rumors. Now, obviously, with him landing in Cleveland reportedly, the Giants now have to pivot.
Now, I don't, as I always say to you folks, I don't speculate on what they're doing upstairs. What they're doing upstairs is beyond my pay grade, and I will not get involved in rumors. But I will tell you this. If I were in this situation and I wanted to get somebody who would be able to work with Dart and get the most out of him, some of the people who I would talk to who don't have NFL connections at the moment would be Cliff Kingsbury, who is recently with Washington and was let go. Okay. I think I would certainly want to talk to him. I think I would certainly want to talk to Charlie Weiss Jr., who, although he left Ole Miss and went to LSU and followed Lane Kiffin to LSU, I would make a phone call and I would ask Charlie Weiss Jr., Are you sure you want to stay in college?
Well, I smell what you're cooking, Paul. And listen, I think Weiss Jr., if you look at Harbaugh as of late down in Baltimore, right, and just let's look at that as an example. He brought McDonald in from Michigan, right, who had worked with his brother John over at Michigan to become his defensive coordinator. Now, obviously, McDonald's the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, and they're going to be in the Super Bowl 11 days from now, right?
Yes.
He brought Monken in, who worked with Kirby Smart down in Georgia collegiately, right? So now you look at Charlie Weiss Jr., and we know that, there is obviously a great affinity that Weiss has for the quarterback of the New York Giants, and there's great affinity that Jackson Dart has for Charlie Weiss Jr. There was some interest by other organizations in the National Football League to interview Charlie Weiss Jr. for their offensive coordinator position in the National Football League, one right down the road, and he said, thanks but no thanks, he's going to stay at LSU. I think that if you look at the history of Harbaugh, and I'm not saying that that he has delved into the college ranks before, I think the Weiss Jr. Name is an interesting one to follow here moving forward to see if that is something that ends up being pursued here by the New York Giants.
See, in my opinion, you don't just take somebody else's word for it, despite the fact that perhaps, and I don't know if he had that call with the Jets or not, but aside from the fact that he reportedly said no, you got to make him say no to you.
Right. No, I would. Yeah, there's no question about it. I think now it's a case. And listen, the Giants are a very smart organization. So and we hear this morning about Todd Monken. You best believe that there are people within this building, and obviously decision makers, and obviously the relationship that the Giants head coach has with his former offensive coordinator with the Baltimore Ravens, that John Harbaugh, had an inkling that maybe was trending in that direction as well. So there's not just one name on the list. You best believe that there's multiple names on the list in terms of where you would pivot and where you would go. And really, it's a matter of carrying out the vision of John Harbaugh and what he wants for this organization, what he wants for this team offensively, and really how all three phases, offense, defense, and special teams, how they all work together, and really who's going to step into this room in terms of a group, whether it be the offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, everything that goes along with it to help develop and get the best, because the quarterback's the most important position in the National Football League, and the Giants have got a really special young one in Dart.
Yeah, there's no doubt. So let's see what the Giants decide to do. I'm sure we will see some more names upcoming, probably as early as this afternoon. There'll be names floating around out there because, let's face it, all these coordinators and head coaches, they have agents, and they make sure that they get their names out in connection with jobs whenever they possibly can.
And here's the other thing, Paul, when you look at it, this is a very appealing opportunity.
Of course it is.
When you look at it, number one, it's the New York Giants. Number two is you've got John Harbaugh, and he's signed to a long-term deal. Number three is I've got a young quarterback that I believe that I can work with and get the best out of. And then there's skill position players that you like, right? You like Theo Johnson at tight end. You like Malik Neighbors coming back off the torn ACL at the wide receiver spot. Cam Scatterbo in that running back room. What you saw from Tyrone Tracy as he stepped in for Scatterbo after he suffered, that ankle injury against the Philadelphia Eagles during the regular season. So there is an attractiveness. The fact is the offensive line, a number of those pieces have been figured out. We'll see exactly what happens with the right tackle position this offseason when NFL free agency gets going, Paul. But this is an attractive job, as John Harbaugh talked about this being the place that he wanted to coach after he was let go by the Baltimore Ravens and was at the top of his list, and said it a week ago when he got introduced by the New York Giants. This was the job he wanted. There's going to be a lot of great offensive minds that are going to look at this situation and say to themselves, this is a position that I want to be in.
Now, I don't know this to be true, but I always tell you folks, the smartest people know what they don't know. And I really don't know of the names that have been attached to the Giants who were supposedly leaving Baltimore to come with Harbaugh. We've never heard official confirmation. Okay? No. We've never heard official confirmation on any of those guys. I believe there were 4 assistants, including the special teams coordinator, who had been rumored and reported to come to the Giants. Well, as you know, folks, a deal is never a deal until it's a deal. The ink has to be dry. Obviously, with Todd Monken, we see that situation. I wonder how many of those names who maybe were supposedly coming to the Giants may also be friendly with Todd Monken and may not have signed their paperwork because they wanted to see what Todd was going to do. And how many of those supposed names might wind up in Cleveland?
Yeah, it's a good. I mean, it's open for conjecture. I'm not sure. I mean, and there seem to be. Well, let's. I mean, if you really the big name. And the fact of that Carmen Priscilla is not going to be brought back as the Giants' offensive line coach, right? I mean, that reportedly, right?
That was out there, but
right. So that was reportedly out there, right? So that there were 2 assistants from Brian Daboll's staff that were going to remain on this staff, according to all reports, right? That were going to be part of John Harbaugh's staff moving forward. There seemed to be a belief that if Todd Monken was named the Giants' offensive coordinator, which he is not going to be, according to reports, he's going to be the Browns' head coach, that the offensive line coach was also going to follow him because he familiar system. That's the guy that Todd Monken wanted.
Where's he going now?
Where's he going to go now? So there is a trickle down effect when you look at it.
Could be.
There is no doubt about it. I mean, and so it's interesting here, and a lot of things have fallen into place. For the New York Giants, and they've made things happen, and we've discussed it time and time again. Whether it be Steve Tisch, obviously the great work of Chris Mara, Tim McDonald, John Mara, everybody that played a massive role to get John Harbaugh here to be the head coach of the New York Giants. A lot of things have broken the Giants' way this offseason from a leadership perspective.
Yes.
Now, this is one hit, according to all reports. If this ends up being the case, this is now a pivot for the New York Giants. It'll be interesting to see exactly where they go.
As always, we come to you from the Giants Podcast Studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. Before we get to John, he is not quite on the line yet. I'm sure he's trying to effectively box out some time for us to talk about the Senior Bowl practices. I do want to go to one of the other items that we teased up at the top of the program. And Bill Belichick does not get in to the Pro Football Hall of Fame here on the first ballot. Now, Moose, I'm going to assume that you're on board with 99% of the people.
He's the greatest coach I've ever seen.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. If this truly is a, quote, punishment for the supposed gamesmanship that Belichick executed while he was in charge of the Patriots, I think it's laughable. It's regrettable. I hope that the entire process that the not the National Football League, because it's not, it's the Pro Football Hall of Fame that empowers the Pro Football Writers of America and selected broadcasters to do this vote. I think the whole thing needs to be reworked. And I hope that the uproar over the Belichick snub does force them to revisit how this process is done, because this is a joke.
Well, no doubt. I mean, and it's embarrassing. I mean, there are great coaches. And, we've seen great coaches on the sidelines in the National Football League for years. And I get Bill Belichick is maybe not appealing for every single individual out there. But if you're going to look at, some of the things that went wrong up in New England, or where the rules were pushed, right? When you're looking at Spygate and Deflategate, and if, according to reports, if the unnamed executive, or, the executive that brought that up and thought that maybe a penance needed to be paid by Bill Belichick for a year before he got elected into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Well, I mean, shame on all the voters. And I get you can look at the voting process and say, well, that needs to change. And I agree. Because, I mean, how are you going to decipher between, say, Roger Craig or Robert Kraft or, Ken Anderson, and look at the names that are on that list and say, well, you can only pick out 3 of them, right? But one of the names has got to be Bill Belichick. I don't think I've never seen, Paul, I've never seen a better coach in the NFL, and what he was able to do, and obviously what he did for this great franchise, the New York Giants, as a defensive coordinator, and what he was able to do in the game plan he had against the Buffalo Bills in Super Bowl 25 down there in Tampa, everything that he did in terms of a defensive mind, everything he did from a leadership perspective. And people over the years love to make the idea, well, who is more important, Bill Belichick or Tom Brady, and the success of the New England Patriots? What coach is not winning with a quarterback, and what quarterback is not going to win with a great head coach? You need both.
None.
You need both. That's the point in the NFL. You need both of them, right? So here's the deal. They worked brilliantly together. They were dynastic up there in New England. The Giants were successful and beat them on both 2 occasions, 2007 in Glendale, 2011 in Indianapolis. But you look at Bill Belichick, the idea that he is not a first ballot Hall of Famer, shame on those voters that decided not to put him in and feel like he needed to pay some sort of penance, because if he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, I don't know who is.
Now, if you've had a chance to look at the voting panel, I don't know if you have,
I have,
But
yeah.
if you look at the panel, did you know, folks, there are only 2 Hall of Fame players who have a vote? Do you know who they are?
I did not. I don't remember who they are.
They are Dan Fouts and James Lofton.
Okay.
Those 2 guys, I believe,
Former broadcaster.
and I believe that is why they actually got on the panel. They got on through their broadcasting merits, because Lofton was with CBS for a long time, and Fouts, of course, with ABC, ESPN for a long time. They are listed as part of the, quote, media portion of the selection committee, if you look at the list. So they're not even there necessarily because they're former players or they are Hall of Fame players. They're there because they were part of the media contingent that is a selected part of the committee. I think it's absolutely absurd that the voting committee has so few Hall of Famers on it.
Yeah, that doesn't make much sense.
It makes no sense.
Right.
Because any of us who know media people, and we're part of it, okay?
Yes.
We all know that media people who, in all likelihood, never played the game and have a lot of biases and prejudices and have a lot of small-time agendas against certain players or certain people in the business, we know that writers are very, very, very bad at suppressing that. Because when it comes to being objective, when it comes to doing what's good for the game, a lot of these guys, they will let their grudges get in the way.
Listen, I get it. Listen, and you see a lot more of that, and you've seen a lot more of that in Major League Baseball, right? And,
You sure
and getting
do.
into Cooperstown.
Especially in recent years.
Right.
Bruce, it's getting worse.
No, and, Eddie Murray had a terrible relationship with the media.
No
right?
doubt.
It took him years to be able to get in. Albert Bell, who I think is a Hall of Famer, right? Albert Bell had a terrible and was not a good guy, but Albert Bell was had a terrible relationship with the media, right? So you look at it, that's got to be, you have to look at what the individual does on the playing
No
field.
doubt.
And what the individual does as a coach. But here's where you get a little bit, and you mentioned it, and you hit upon it, Paul, where you've got to look at this voting system. So if you don't know, right, in 2024, the voting system was changed to determine who earns enshrinement into Canton, right? Starting with the 25 class. For the senior coach and contributor pool, 50 voters cast 3 votes apiece. At least one of the finalists must be elected to the Hall, with no more than 3 getting in for any given year, and they have to earn 80%. So 40 of the 50. So you have to get 40 of the 50 votes in order to get enshrinement. Why minimize it? Why do you go to the voters and say, look at these individuals, you only have 3 votes? But here's the problem you have, and I understand that voting system needs to change. How do you look at that list, and how is Bill Belichick not one of your votes? Like, we can look at the voting system and say to yourself, all right, well, I want to vote for Roger Craig, or I want to vote for Robert Kraft, whatever it might be as an owner, right? And you're looking at this, and that needs to be adjusted as well. Why you only have 3 votes, but how are one of those, given this system, how are one of those 3 votes, how do you not look at Bill Belichick and say, yes, he should get his gold jacket, he deserves his, on the first ballot, he's going to get in, and we're going to make the argument, well, why does he need to pay a penance for Deflategate and Spygate? The Patriots already paid the penance for that, right?
Correct.
He is an unbelievable head coach. He was a culture changer up there in Foxborough. The success he had up in New England, we probably will never see an NFL team have that kind of success over a sustained period of time and doing it with the greatest quarterback of all time in Tom Brady. And you mean to tell me he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer? Makes no sense.
Zero. And this thing about having rounds, the way that the NFL does it, where you have to get certain percentages just to advance to the next round and get to the next round and the next round, it's ridiculous. Even in Major League Baseball, right?
Yeah.
Each of the Major League Baseball writers, and they let all the writers do the votes. They don't have any Hall of Famers on that particular committee. There's a separate committee that does the seniors and stuff. But my point is, even in baseball, each guy gets his ballot. I believe they're allowed to fill out 10. Is that correct? It's
correct.
10?
10.
Okay, 10 guys. And then they shove all those votes into the computer and they tally up all the votes and they say, okay, who got what? What's the percentage? You're in, you're out, done. There's no rounds.
No, there's no rounds.
There's no rounds.
But here's where
this rounds thing is crazy.
Right, and sometimes guys get votes because they were friends with reporters and they don't want to get embarrassed by getting no votes whatsoever, even though they're going to be off the ballot. But I'm one of those guys. Regardless, and the Hall of Fame it's a great night out there in Canton, Ohio, and you get the Hall of Fame game, and you love the speeches, and you love to get the backstory, the origin story, and some speeches are better than others. But here's the thing: if I have to sit down, Paul, and here's where on any Hall of Fame, if I have to sit down with you, Paul, and argue about a player, about whether or not he's a Hall of Famer or not for 10 or 15 minutes, you know what? That player's not a Hall of Famer because you know it. You see it. You've watched it day in and day out. That's where I think the Hall of Fame should be for the elite of the elite. And there should be no debate about Bill Belichick whatsoever. That's what's so infuriating when you look at this scenario and this scene, the fact that he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer. And I understand that he was not the media's best friend. And I understand what the Patriots historically Deflategate, Spygate, and all of that. I get it. But the success that he had in big time games, the amount of Super Bowls that he won, 8. I mean, he won 8 as a coordinator, as a head coach, and he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer. It makes no sense.
He needs a whole garage just to hold his trophies.
Yeah.
All right, now I'm going to go one further, folks. I'm going to go one further because the coaches and contributors list is Meatloaf together.
Yeah.
Which is also stupid.
Makes no sense.
Makes 0 sense because the qualifications to be a contributor or a head coach are different.
Yeah.
But we're putting them in the same pot when we vote. How dumb. I have talked to so many people who vote in that category. And you know what they've all told me? Everyone, and I've got about a half a dozen of them who I've spoken to. They all tell me Mike Shanahan, Mike Holmgren, and Tom Coughlin are all guys they would vote for. But the problem is, based on this tiered system and the way you vote, they can't put them all down on the same ballot in the same year. So tell me something. If the people on your committee know that there are 3 Hall of Fame head coaches that belong in, why should they have to be restricted to the point where the system says, oh, you can't possibly vote for all 3 of those guys. We're going to make each one of those guys wait. Because every time that you wait another year, the damn traffic jam gets worse and worse and worse. Because there are more candidates involved.
Paul, are you okay? Are you doing okay, Paul?
Hello, John.
What's up, Johnny?
I didn't know you were here.
Up. I just popped in, and I heard you ranting and raving, and I very much enjoyed it. How are you? What's up, guys?
I am
What's
so
going on,
hot
John?
that I can melt the ice outside the building.
Well, it's funny, Paul, and it's funny because I think you saw my tweet that I put up last night, right, when the Belichick thing kind of came down. And that was my point. It pushes, and, Holmgren should have got in last year when he didn't get in. So, yeah, I mean, it's not great. It's not great, and I'm with you. I don't understand why you have to split, because you can only vote for 3 of them, right? And you have to split them between the 3 categories. It doesn't make any sense.
And then only one guy's allowed in.
No, they met. They
One coach.
One coach.
Yeah,
One
one
coach.
coach. That's
Correct.
You can vote for all 3 coaches, but by the time it gets to the final deal, one coach gets
Only
in
one
a year.
coach. Right. That's it.
That's so dumb.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Yeah, there isn't any reason to limit the number of coaches or contributors. I don't understand.
My
that at all.
goodness.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
All right, John.
And listen, if
Hi, guys.
Holmgren should have been the first coach ever to win back 2 Super Bowls with 2 different franchises.
I mean, what are
He
we
got the
doing?
benefit of the flag out there in Detroit when he was the head coach of Seattle against Pittsburgh. What's going on, John? How are you, bud?
I'm doing great, guys. How's the weather up there?
Cold. How was the ice storm in Texas?
Oh, you mean my 12 hours in the airport on Monday? It was fantastic.
Ouch.
So we can have fun with this a little bit. I know Moose loves the old travel stories that Doggy used to ask about every play-by-play guy he ever got on his show. So he's used to these. So I got to the airport for a supposed direct flight to Mobile at around, the flight was supposed to take off around 8. I got there around 6:15 a.m. or whatever.
Okay.
As I'm about to check my bags for that flight, because I have a bunch of gear and stuff for our video content, that flight gets canceled. They get me on a flight that leaves from Pensacola in an hour, but it's on the other side of the airport. And if you guys have ever flown into Dallas, the size of the Dallas airport is basically the size of the island of Manhattan. And I'm not even being sarcastic about it. That's about how big it is. So I have to get all the way to Terminal E. I get there 5 minutes after the time limit where you can check bags for a flight. So even though, and by the way, that flight then takes off on time. which was basically the only flight at that airport the entire day that took off on time. And, of course, it was one that I was trying to get on. So then I got on a New Orleans flight. That was flight number 3. That got canceled 5 minutes after I got booked onto it. Then I got booked onto a 1:30 flight to New Orleans, which would require a 2-hour drive after you land. Okay. That flight was originally scheduled for 11. It got delayed to 1:30. I eventually took off around 8:45 p.m. So I was in the airport for about 12 hours, got here, got in New Orleans around 10:30, drove to Mobile with a couple other scouts, members of the Giants front office, got to Mobile around a little after midnight, and then Radio Row started at 5:30 a.m. the following day. So I worked on about 2 hours of sleep, and then they practiced until 6 p.m. So it's been a lot, but it's been fun.
Now, John, if you are the traveling bad luck charm that you proposed yourself to be, I don't think I want to go with you to the Combine.
And by the way, it wasn't just me. As you guys know, and Moose, I'm not sure if you were at the Super Bowl the year they had the ice storm in Dallas.
I was not.
But just imagine that. I mean, I don't think the entire city of Dallas owns a plow. I don't think anyone they don't have home. They don't
salt, sand the roads, nothing.
They have no idea what salt is.
Put that chemical on the roadways, which doesn't work, by the way.
No, it does not. I was talking to people. They put sand and Paul. You were talking about this last week. Pickle brine.
Yes,
and that's what they do. So 2 days after it iced, I drove to the airport. It looked like no one had done any work on the highways. It was the incompetence of snow and ice management was just beyond my comprehension.
Well, John, hopefully at the airport you had a nice meal as you were sat there for
nice
mousse. Yeah, steak and potatoes, something like that, burger and fries, whatever it might be to get you through.
I continued my clean eating from Texas, so it was a little quarter pounder with cheese.
Oh, nice.
Good times.
Very nice.
Yes,
now
it was delicious.
Now my question is, as you are in Texas and now Mobile, Alabama,
yes.
And we'll get to the Senior Bowl here in just
whatever,
a second.
That's
but you got a wife and kids at home.
Oh yeah, she's thrilled with me. By the way,
20 inches of snow in Jersey. My question is, now were you the forward-thinking husband where you sent somebody over to make sure everything was properly taken care of in terms of shoveling?
I did. So I contacted two men. Oh, I'm not an idiot, Moose. I'm stupid, but I'm not an idiot. So I contacted 2 people from the Giants organization that happened to live in my town, Ethan Medley and Carmen Pisano, and their sons were locked and loaded to come over to shovel for us. So
very nice.
Luckily, one of my neighbors was kind enough to bring their snowblower over. So they did a lot of the work the day of, and then the next day, Ethan's son came over and finished the job with the shoveling. So yes, it was not bad. My wife did go out twice.
It would have been you thought that time in the airport was long. If you didn't take care of that, it would have been. It was cold in the Northeast, and once you got back from Alabama, if you didn't take care of that, it would have been a cold winter in the Schmeelk household.
Oh, she would have sent you back. Is what she would have done.
Honestly, you know what would have been? Here are your 2 children. I'll see you in 8 days.
Yeah, exactly. All right, John, you were been now at both of these Shrine Bowl the Shrine Bowl, now the Senior Bowl practices. I'm going to concentrate on what's happening at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, please. Good idea.
You have already posted some stuff from yesterday.
Yes.
I don't want to repeat the text that you put up or the videos you've put up because I want people to go there and check it out.
Yeah, people should.
And that's the tease, okay, folks? It's all on Giants.com. It is all there. YouTube channel, the shorts, it's all there. John and Dom have done a great job with their videos and their text.
Now, I should be clear. It's YouTube shorts. I am not wearing shorts because it is about 30 degrees here in Mobile
I believe that.
It is cold.
Okay. So I want to ask you maybe a couple of things that are on the periphery that maybe you didn't go detailed on because I want to make sure that we don't duplicate the stuff you already have up there.
Absolutely.
Caleb Banks, defensive tackle out of Florida.
Yep.
Coming off a big-time injury, but my goodness, John, if he had not been injured this past season, he would have been a guy who a lot of folks would have been hot for. What do you know about what's going on with him down there this week?
It's funny. The reason I was late to you guys, I was finishing about a 4-minute interview with Caleb Banks down at Media Day.
There we go.
There you
go.
Good
you did not know that, but somehow you managed to ask the question. Excellent job. So, yeah, I mean, it's funny. I asked him about it because a lot of the guys here that I've talked to, they haven't played in the game since December. right, when their college season ended, and they're like, it's taking a little while to get the rust off, and it's been a challenge. So I asked my first question for Caleb is, I got guys complaining about not playing for 7 weeks. For you, it's been 5 months. What has it been like trying to get ready this week? And he kind of laughed. He goes, yeah, it hasn't been easy. He actually oddly said to me that part of him is almost happy that he got hurt because it allowed him to learn so much about himself. I think that might be a little bit of overstating it a bit, maybe. Okay. But he's still a guy that I think has a chance to go at the end of the first round. He's really tall. He's 6'6". He carries his 300. What did he weigh in? Right, he weighed in at 335. He carries that weight really well. Like, you would not think he's 335 looking at him. He's got 35-inch arms. He's long. He had a sack during the team portion of practice yesterday. So he's probably going to be one of the 5 or 6 highest drafted players here, if I had to guess.
I want to ask you about a wideout. I love the small school guys.
Yeah.
What about the kid Ted Hurst, the wideout at Georgia State?
Yeah, and actually an interview with him. I'm not sure if it's posted yet. I did do an interview with him that's going to pop up on the Giants Huddle podcast. If it's not up there, you can ask Pearson. It should be up there by the end of the day. He's one of the more exciting guys here. Now, Georgia State was terrible this year. They went 1-11. They were one of the worst teams in the country. They didn't even win a game in their conference. 6'3", 207. I'm sure you guys saw. I'm sure the video's been all over the place. He made this great play on the sideline yesterday. Giant, one-handed catch, goes to the ground, controls the ball. He was kind of bobbling on the way down. He's one of these big, raw wide receivers that some team is going to use probably a late day 2 pick on and try to develop. But he checks the box physically, every box physically that you would want out of a big wide receiver that has some juice down the field. But it's Georgia State, so he's going to have to figure things out. He's going to have to get his fundamentals straightened out. But he is one of the it's not a great wide receiver group. Casey Concepcion bailed on the game. He's not here. Elijah Surratt from Indiana, he bailed on the game. He's not here. So it's not the best wide receiving core. At best, I think you'll maybe have one second-round pick from the guys here, maybe. But it is not like a group of wide receivers filled with, top picks in the draft.
John, I want to ask you about one other player, and then I want to get a couple of generic observations about what you've already gotten before we let you go. Tacario Davis, the corner out of Washington, is a freak. 6'4", 200 pounds, from a Huskies program that has produced some pretty good DBs over the last decade or so. What do you see when you look at this guy? First of all, is that legit? The measurements look like out of control, and for a corner to be that big, holy smokes, that's going to attract a lot of attention.
Well, I have some bad news for you, Paul.
What happened? He's hurt.
He is not here.
He didn't make it?
No, he's not. I saw that he had committed as well, but he is not on the roster. And you mentioned the name, and I'm like, I don't remember seeing him at practice yesterday. So I just looked down at my roster. There's only one Washington defensive back on here, and that's Ephesians Prysock, which is a tremendous name, by the way.
Wow.
So, yes, Tacario Davis is not here. So he could be that tall. I don't know.
And it's too bad for him, because what I read about him is that he had slumped this season, and he was going to need a really good Senior Bowl and a good combine to raise his stock again.
Yeah, he was considered I remember watching him, actually, I think over the summer, because he was considered to be a pretty highly draftable cornerback in this year's draft, and then he did have a down year. So I don't know why he's not here, if it's injury or what. I honestly don't have the answer to that question. But unfortunately, he is not here.
John, how big is the uptick from what you saw with the Shrine practices as compared to the Senior Bowl?
Talent here is better. I mean, I think, when we talk about Shrine last week, if you can get 3 day 2 picks out of that group, I think you're going to be in really good shape, and I think you could have a handful of first-round picks here. It's just a more talented group of guys. In terms of potential first-rounders, I think you look at the defensive line first and foremost. Paul already mentioned Caleb Banks. That's one guy. Romello Height. He's kind of like a Nick Bonita-ish type of pass rusher at a Texas Tech, a really good speed rusher guy, a little bit undersized. You look at some of the other guys on the edge. Zion Young out of Missouri could be a late first-round pick. Gabe Jackus out of Illinois is almost certainly going to be a second-round pick. Derek Moore from Michigan. He's been really good so far at this game. That's someone else to keep an eye on. Colton Hood the cornerback out of Tennessee, who had a rough start to practice yesterday. He got called for a couple flags, got beat a couple times. But he's a guy that more likely than not is going to be a first-round pick. So the talent level is definitely up. It's not the best quarterback class, which, of course, then takes away from the wide receivers and DBs. If fewer passes are on target, you're not going to get as many really good reps out of that. I think Nussmeier's been fine. Taylon Green is fascinating. The big quarterback out of Arkansas. He's 6'6", he's 230. The ball flies out of his hands. He's just a little bit raw as a passer. So it definitely, Moose, is a big uptick in talent. You're going to have some first-round picks, and you're going to have a bunch of second and third round picks, which is what the Senior Bowl really usually dominates.
John, you do the draft season pod for Giants.com all the time. Tony Pauline among the guys that you have on as a regular. Were there names besides the Washington corner that I just talked about? Were there a handful of guys who you really wanted to see that have dropped out, that did not make it, and kind of really raised some question marks because they're not there?
I don't know if it raised question marks. You had a lot of the guys, unfortunately, that were in the national championship game, right? Like Ruben Bain committed. He didn't come. But Miami played last week. I don't blame him.
Right.
Akeem Mesidor, the other edge rusher from Miami, he was supposed to be here. But again, they played last week, so he didn't make it. I mentioned Casey Concepcion, right? His team went deep, Texas A&M, into the college football playoffs. Okay. He didn't end up making it. Will Lee out of Texas A&M, the cornerback, another guy that kind of bailed late. Elijah Serrata, I mentioned, from Indiana as well. He did not end up making it. That was disappointing. So those were the main guys. Keldrick Falk at one point had committed to this game. He decided not to come. He's not here. That's a guy that I'm surprised didn't come because his production wasn't great this year, but he's very talented, so I thought he could really help himself if he did come to the game. So, look, you always have these late exits every year. Guys commit, and then, they decide they don't want to do it. Their agent calls up and says, hamstring, whatever, and they don't end up coming. Like, it happens every year. So, yeah, there were some late drops that were disappointing for sure. But overall, it's still enough guys here that are good that I think will give you a pretty good showing when it comes to the NFL draft in April.
Besides Banks, is there anybody with injury questions that people are trying to decipher, or are they going to wait till the combine for those guys?
Good question. I mean, the guys that are here, they usually don't let people attend if they're not going to play. Right? So they don't have guys here that are hurt and are not playing. An exception was made to this. Who was the Tennessee quarterback that got drafted by the Lions? That got injured late in the year. He ended up going.
I remember who you're talking about.
Yeah, and he was like a third string quarterback for a team this year. Was he on the Jets maybe at some point?
No, he was on the Lions.
He was on the Lions, and then he got let go. I forgot where he wound up this year, but that's a guy they made an exception for because he tore his ACL really late in the year. And they wanted to help him out. But generally, they don't have injured players come here. So no one else really necessarily comes to mind, Paul, to me, to be totally honest with you, in terms of injury questions.
Nadeem Tucker. I love the small school guys. Western Kentucky. Read reports, and John, maybe you could fill us in a little bit that he flashed during yesterday's practice.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that name.
Nadeem Tucker, the edge rusher out of Western Michigan, I should say.
Yeah, he had some good moments, Moose. And, the other guy that kind of excited me, and I'm not sure if this was reported outside of this, but at a good old John Carroll, a very small school in Ohio, Tyron Montgomery, he's a little slot guy. He's a return guy. He's 5'11", he's 190. When I say he roasted Colton Hood on a couple plays, he did. I mean, Colton Hood couldn't cover him.
Okay.
And he was moving around really, really well. You mentioned Ted Hurst already, but that Tyron Montgomery is the guy that really got me. I'm going to focus more on the edge group today and see how they do inside. So I will definitely mark him down, and I'll make sure I have a report for you guys on him later in the week.
And that quarterback is Hendon Hooker.
Hendon Hooker, thank you. Thank you.
Go.
Thank you.
There you go.
There you
no
go.
worries.
Yes.
Phil Simms was high on him.
Yeah, he was great at Tennessee.
Yeah, for
He's
sure.
Great.
By the way, I have not seen any of the reports. I have not paid attention. Has anyone thrown out potential, now that Monken is going to Cleveland, has anyone thrown out potential OC candidates?
I was going to ask you if there are people whispering names down there.
Paul, I found out 45 minutes ago I'm interviewing college players.
Well, there's a lot of people down there connected with the league.
He's got write-ups to do. It's draft season.
So, John Schmeelk here, joined by Caleb Banks. Caleb, who do you think the next offensive coordinator of the Giants might be?
Hey, his guess is as good as the writers these days. Trust me.
Monken who? What? Hello?
All right, John, what are you targeting that people can look for being posted later on today?
Yeah, so we'll have another 1-minute video recap. That'll go up everywhere you get your little short videos out there these days. I'll have a written report. Practice is on until 6 out here, which is 7 Eastern time, so it probably won't get up till tomorrow morning, but I'll have a written report on practice. And then, again, I'm not sure if it's up yet, but we have about 6 or 7 video interviews I did here yesterday in the morning that'll go up, including TJ Parker from Clemson. He would be the headliner, I think, in that group.
Of all the interviews, John, last one for me. Of all the interviews you've done, which prospect has impressed you the most?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say Malachi Fields out of Notre Dame was really well-spoken. Not a surprise. Romello Height, who I did today, that's probably going to go up on tomorrow's huddle. He's a guy that's been at 4 different schools, and he was very forthright with me about, I was really immature early in my career, but, I've kind of figured things out now, and I needed to do it. A lot of these guys are really honest about their weaknesses and their flaws, and I really respect that. They kind of come here, and they know what the teams are going to ask them, and I don't think they were rehearsed answers. I think they're honest answers, but they're ready to kind of, give those answers as to, what their perceived weaknesses or flaws are, and they have explanations for them. And I think these guys have done a really nice job. I talked to Kalen Black today, the running back out of Indiana. He's like the one Indiana guy that's here. We talked about Kurt Signetti a little bit. That was a fun interview, but that's why I love coming to these events, guys. You get to talk to these players, and you kind of learn about them as players and people, and I just enjoy that. And so many of these kids, like, you meet them, and then all of a sudden you want to root for them, because they're just like such good kids and they really want to succeed. So people should go check them out. Again, I'm not sure if that first batch is up yet in the Giants Huddle Podcast, Giants YouTube channel, but if not, it should be up there shortly. A lot of great spots.
John Schmeelk from the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. We will talk to you again tomorrow, John.
Talk to you tomorrow, boys.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
So it sounds like it was quite a travel deal for John to get from the Shrine to the Senior, but at least now he's at his second destination, and the only travel he's got left is to come back home.
That's it. And hopefully, and we're expecting more weather this weekend. Did you see that in the Tri-State area?
I didn't want to tell him that.
Yeah, more weather this weekend. So
he's in no mood to hear that.
Spent 12 hours
now.
in the airport. He had himself a nice quarter pounder with cheese and some fries. Away you go.
All right, so we move on with the program at 201-939-4513. We're going to get a phone call in. Marty in Manahawkin, you're first on the show. Hello.
Hey, Paul. How are you?
What's going on? Good to talk to you.
Hey, I'm just wondering if, we're talking about that Belichick thing where he didn't get the votes for the, to advance. But I don't think it helped that you had a guy like Bill Polian go out there and fire a salvo ahead of time telling people, maybe we should let him wait a year because of, some of the instances up in New England. So I think that was a little Bush doing something like that to him.
Well, I mean, everyone's entitled to their opinion. Doesn't necessarily mean you put much weight into it. So if Bill Polian, who wants to echo those sentiments in that room and talk about the fact that Bill Belichick should wait a year before he gets into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But the idea is not just one voter. He fell short. You need 40 of the 50 to get inducted, right? So he didn't get the necessary 80%. So it was more than just 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. It was more than 10 that decided not to vote for Bill Belichick, which makes little to no sense based on the individual. Wherever you think about Bill Belichick from a personality perspective, or however much credence you give into Spygate or Deflategate for what the man accomplished. First off, as a defensive coordinator and a brilliant defensive mind, and then the program that he built up there in Foxborough with the New England Patriots and the unmitigated success that they had up there in Foxborough and the championships that they won and the playoff success that they had, everything that came along with it, the idea that he is not deserving of being a first ballot Hall of Famer makes little to no sense. So shame on the voters. We can get into the election process and the fact that it makes little to no sense, and you can talk about who exactly is voting for him, but anybody who's worth their salt, that knows football, that knows the National Football League, that knows and loves this game and looks at Bill Belichick and says, you know what, thanks but no thanks, I'm going to make him wait a year, or I don't think he's deserving of being a first ballot Hall of Famer. Well, like we mentioned before, Paul, if he's not, then who is?
I think, Marty, the point that I would raise is that, as Mark said, everybody can have a different opinion. That's not the problem here.
Right.
Bill Polian is free to express that opinion, and if he doesn't like what Bill Belichick stood for or what he represented or what he did, he can certainly vocalize that. That's not the gripe. The gripe is you vocalize that opinion, and even if on your own, which Bill Polian's entitled to if he's got a vote, and I'm not sure that he does, but if he does, yes, he does, as a matter of fact. He is on the committee.
Yeah, he was in the room.
And he didn't want to do his vote because he was going to take a personal stance that he felt so strongly about. He's also entitled to do that. He is. Whether or not we think it's foolish is another story. We're entitled to think it's foolish. But, Marty, here's the thing that boggles the mind. It blows me away that there were nearly a dozen people, right, who took that opinion and were not able to separate the opinion from the objectivity of the man's resume. That boggles my mind because, as Mark also said earlier, Belichick paid his penance for what he did.
He did.
So it's done. It's over. It's not a lifetime crime, so to speak. And so how could there be so many people on that committee who could not separate the man's resume from this opinion that was thrown out there? That seems to me to be ridiculous.
Well, I would make the argument, and here's the other aspect of it. Do you think Bill Belichick was a product of Spygate and Deflategate? Like, you can draw a comparison to, say, Major League Baseball, right? And Cooperstown and the Baseball Hall of Fame. And you could look at guys that don't get in that are, PED users, right? For an argument's sake. And you could look at those individuals and say, well, they are a product of using some sort of performance-enhancing drug. And that's a layered argument, a lot of layers to it.
Sure.
We're not getting into that debate. But Bill Belichick paid his penance. The Patriots did. He got reprimanded for it. He is not a product of it. It takes away from his brilliance and what he was and his impact on professional football. And, if he's not, and I understand he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. This is not about a matter of walking into the room and playing the game. This is a matter of what the man accomplished in the National Football League. And you look at what he accomplished, and unquestionably, for my money, in my lifetime, I've never seen a coach in the National Football League do it better than Bill Belichick. I just haven't. I haven't, Paul. I really haven't. You can get into debate game management, game situation, personality, this and that. For what he accomplished, I've never seen anybody do more in the NFL than Bill Belichick did, as a coordinator here with the Giants and obviously as a head coach with the New England Patriots.
Again, my problem, Marty, I think the committee is screwed up. I think the rules are bad, and I think the makeup of the committee is bad. I really do.
Yeah.
More Hall of Famers should be on the committee, because they know what they had to do to get there. So why shouldn't those people have a little more say in who's going to join them in the club? As John Madden used to say, the bus talk to each other, right? When you close the door. Those people know. Yeah. They know.
They know. 100%. They know.
Anyway.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, Paul. I agree 100%. I have two quick things. I wanted to mention to Mark, I think the Giants at one point, they did draft somebody years ago from John Carroll University. I do remember that. And Davis Webb.
Davis Webb was Cal. He was Texas Tech and then Cal.
Cal Golden Bears.
Yeah, so he was not a John Carroll guy.
No, I'm not talking about Davis Webb being. He was Cal. No, there was somebody years ago that came from John Carroll University.
Marty, that goes beyond my encyclopedic knowledge. I'm sorry.
I'll look it up. It might show it up in the one of my old Giants media guides. But Davis Webb coming as an offensive coordinator could happen.
Yeah, but you've already seen, and Marty, thanks a lot for the call. You've already seen changes in Denver. I think Sean Payton announced that 3 coaching changes, including their offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi, was let go out in Denver for the Broncos. So Davis Webb was one that was in the running up in Buffalo. We talked about that last week, Paul.
We did.
Before the storm.
He has options.
Yeah, he has options. They decided to go with Joe Brady up there in Buffalo to be the head coach here moving forward, taking over for Sean McDermott, I would imagine, with Lombardi being let go out there in Denver, that the apple of the eye potentially might be for Sean Payton to have Davis Webb step up and be the offensive coordinator. We'll see how it plays out with the Denver Broncos.
Speaking of free agents, Joe Lombardi is a free agent.
He is.
And you know what? He's done some good things over his career.
He is. I think the guy you mentioned when we kicked off the program today, I think it is an intriguing name to keep an eye on, Charlie Weiss Jr. down there at LSU. I think that is a very, very intriguing name.
Folks, Special Olympics New Jersey's annual Snow Bowl is heading to Rutgers SHI Stadium in 2026. This annual flag football tournament will be on the field of Rutgers SHI Stadium from March 6th through the 8th. The 6-on-6 tournament will feature competitive recreational and co-ed divisions, and all proceeds benefit thousands of Special Olympics New Jersey athletes across the Garden State. Register your team today at njsnowbowl.org. That's njsnowbowl.org. Are you...
I'm not going to be there.
You're not PAing this?
No, I'm not PAing that. No, I'm not going to be there.
I thought maybe.
That's a great event. Well, yeah, I do Rutgers football in the
I know.
fall. Yeah,
That's why I
a little
thought.
pre- and post game, no doubt about it. But no, I will not be at SHI Stadium. That's going to
Okay.
be fun, though. Hopefully some of the snow clears out. It's a little warmer out. Imagine going out there and playing football right now in 10-degree weather.
Well, let's see. This March 6th
through the 8th.
Oh, they got about 6 weeks to
6
dig it out.
weeks. We'll be okay. We'll be okay by then, hopefully.
You're sure the ice will melt?
I'm sure. I wouldn't bet on it. You never know with the way this winter is going. Talking to Chris and the guys when I was walking in here, we haven't had one of these kind of winters in years, Paul. It's been crazy.
It's been at least 10 years.
Yeah.
I remember about 30 years ago, we had one where, the snow drifts outside of my driveway were nearly as high as I was. That was really, really bad in North Jersey. But this has got to be one of the top 3 snowstorms that I've remembered.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And then the dig out process afterward. It took a while to get the roads clear and everything that goes along with it. And then the one thing that was easier with the snow was it was powdery. So
Thank goodness.
It was a light snow.
But you had to get to it quick.
You did. You're right.
Because then that freezing rain came down.
Yes.
Oh, not good.
It created that crust. I've got issues. My dog doesn't know where to go to the bathroom now. He's got no room. There's nowhere to go.
Could you maybe paint the ice green and he would think it's grass?
He's sniffing around. He's trying to create a pathway. He tries to hop in the snow. It's too he's a little mini golden doodle. He's 37 pounds. He's got nowhere to go to the bathroom.
We go to line 2 and Rob in Connecticut, and I hope you know where you can go to the bathroom. Because we don't need to hear about any messes in your home. Go ahead.
The Moose, I miss you, my friend, on the fan.
What's up, Robbie? I appreciate it, man.
Well, hey, so by the way, I was in the blizzard of 1993 because I lived in Syracuse then, and that was a pretty treacherous. That was very bad.
It was bad.
Yes. So, with regards to this whole, you cannot have a litmus test in an NFL, which is a sports league, on the Hall of Fame, and you can't have a litmus test on morality. That is ridiculous, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Let's see here. So what are we going to do about the OC? I was hook, line, and sinker and Todd Monken, and are we going to go with somebody who's never called plays before, or are we going to go with someone who has called plays before? What do you guys think?
Well, as John Harbaugh goes into this now new process, because he kind of thought maybe that he had his guy, he's going to go to that list that he probably had off to the side of the shelf. He probably had 5 or 6 guys, I would think, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's not caught, red-handed here.
Right.
He knows who those other calls are going to be made to. I don't know. Look, we'd be dumb. We'd be dumb to sit here and tell you we know. Now, I just threw out a few names that I would call based on what I know. But that's just guys who I know who have done this job before or who I think may make sense.
Who's your number one choice? If right now, and I missed it, I'm sorry, P-Dot, I missed it if you said it earlier. And then I guess, Mark, who are your number one choice? You know what I mean? Like available, realistic people, people who aren't going to come. Don't even mention
my
them,
first
right?
calls. My first call's to Charlie Weiss Jr. Because I feel as though he's got to say no to me before I strike him off my list. He's got to say no. I make him say no. Otherwise, he would have to be my top guy.
Okay.
Yeah, and it would be. Listen, and play off that point as well. If the reports are true, and reportedly that, the Jets had reached out to him and he said, thanks, but no thanks, staying at LSU. Let's look at the complexion of the two issues, right? Or the two situations. Number one is you don't have a quarterback there with the New York Jets. Here with the Giants, you have a quarterback you're very, very familiar with, and that you have a good rapport and you've worked with as well before, when you're dating back to not all that long ago to your days at Ole Miss. Obviously, a familiarity with the organization, and so obviously the commitment that the Giants have made to John Harbaugh here moving forward as an organization. So there's a lot of things that come into play, which Paul and I hit upon earlier on in the show that make this an extremely attractive job, because if you're a coordinator and say you're moving to a situation, we mentioned Daboll. Daboll's moving to a situation, going to coach a quarterback that he believes in Cam Ward, right? Now with the Tennessee Titans, if you're Charlie Weiss Jr., the only reason you're leaving LSU is to put yourself in a situation where you believe in the quarterback and the offense that you're going to be able to play moving forward. So that's why, and Paul hit upon it, if I want to hear what his thoughts are. If he tells me no, then he tells me no. He wants to stay in LSU and coach a little SEC football. That's all well and good, but I think it's a call that's probably got to be made. And based on the history of Harbaugh as of late down in Baltimore with his hiring practices, where he reached to McDonald to get his defensive coordinator from Michigan, and Monken from Georgia was coaching with Kirby Smart, you would lead to believe that at least that phone call is going to be made. But we'll see.
Yep, sure. Hey, Paul, update on the Kadarius Toney Cleveland Brown coaching situation. I guess they had a disagreement about his name. He wanted to go with the Joka, and talks are off. So I just wanted to let you know.
Thank you so much for that information. Oh, my. Yeah.
What is the joke with Kadarius Toney?
Well, the fan base is not exactly a huge fan of Kadarius.
Oh, who is? Right.
He hasn't exactly endeared himself to the NFL community.
No doubt about it. No, he's not handled himself properly in a lot of different situations.
I'm just looking here as I just look through Google, and again, this was not anybody who I would have mentioned as a preferential phone call, but Josh Grizzard, formerly of the Bucs.
Yeah.
Is an offensive coordinator with NFL experience who is out there. Google also throws back, and Pete Carroll, I'm just going to cross that off. I'm not even going there. But Mike McDaniel was just given a job.
Yeah, with the Los Angeles Chargers.
But yet he just showed up on Google, which just goes to show you don't want to do that.
Yeah, I did. Well, before
AI
before the
is
show,
not a great idea.
I was watching some of his presser get introduced out there by the Los Angeles Chargers, and whether or not he believes in a run game and everything like that. And he says, he's going to go part and parcel with Jim Harbaugh out there in Los Angeles, and now gets to work with Justin Herbert here moving forward, at least in the short term.
But before you had called, I don't know if you had just heard moments earlier, we had mentioned that Joe Lombardi is now available.
Yep.
We had mentioned Cliff Kingsbury is also available after being released by Washington during the offseason. Those are a couple of guys who have done it in this league and have some notches in their belts. Let's not make any mistake about that. Those guys have done some good things with some high-level quarterbacks during their careers.
Yeah, I think Lombardi worked with, 12 years.
With the Saints.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So, and Sean had a good relationship, felt like it was just time to move on, and he was not the only coaching change coming off their AFC Championship game loss. I think there were two other coaches on that defensive staff, two other coaches on that staff as well that were let go by the Denver Broncos, according to all reports, Paul. So we'll see where they go. I think it'd be hard to lean into a guy that just lost his job as offensive coordinator down in Tampa after one season. But Kingsbury's an interesting name. It is, after some of the stories that you heard down in Washington coming out of this season, which ended up being a miserable season for the Commanders.
You know what's interesting about the Bucs? There are a lot of folks in this National Football League who have compared Jackson Dart to Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
In terms of skill set and the kinds of things that they like to do. So in terms of getting a former Bucs OC,
right up here,
there may be something there that's a good fit.
Yeah, and listen, I think from a I would say leadership standpoint, Baker's a dude. And Jackson's a dude, right? And is able to connect with his teammates and get his teammates to be able to respond, and the teammates believe and those two individuals as their quarterbacks. Now, you look at what they can do in terms of athletically. Obviously, Jackson a little bit bigger than Baker Mayfield. There's no question about it. But the ability to extend plays with your legs, and that has become the modern day NFL quarterback, the dual threat, less of a just pure pocket passer, and the ability to go out there and not only throw the ball, but be able to use your athleticism and your legs to be able to extend plays and be able to churn out first down. So I can get those comparisons. That's fair. And we'll see where the pivot is for the New York Giants. If all the reports out of Cleveland today, and you believe them to be true, is that Todd Monken is going to be the next head coach of the Cleveland Browns.
The other item, Moose, is that at one point over the course of the last week or so, I believe there were, again, published reports that the Giants did ask for permission to talk to Davis Webb.
Yeah.
So potentially, maybe that is still a phone call that could be made. I don't know. Maybe it has been made. I can't tell you the answer to that.
Yeah, I think.
But that's a guy who seems to be getting a lot of attention.
Well, you mentioned that list. I would imagine he would be a name that would be on that list.
Yeah, I think he would.
You would think.
I'm a big Davis Webb guy.
I know you are. I know. And you've talked to guys that say he has head coach written all over him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would make Davis Webb part of my list, part of my phone calls. We have a few quick comments here from YouTube before we shut it down.
Yeah.
I know we didn't get to the Shrine Bowl names, but that's okay. We'll maybe do that tomorrow.
These are
quickly. Funny. YouTube. MB Goblin says, is anyone hearing that rattling? There is an occasional ambiance outside the room.
Yeah.
Says the guy says it sounds almost like drilling.
It is.
There is some construction going on at the Giants complex, and it's not just to the roster.
No.
It is to the building.
Yeah, to the building.
Yes, indeed.
New cafeteria.
Vince G1 says Harbaugh's having his office redone. Okay. Scotty Young, 1669, says, I think if we could get Charlie Weiss Jr. from LSU, he would be perfect for Dart. Karn CTM says, Dart's family are very good friends with the Weiss family. That is also true. T-Tom13, what about Rams passing game coordinator for OC? Nathan Shalahasi?
No, Sheelhass.
Sheelhass.
Yeah.
I'm not good with his name.
Yeah.
He's had some reports that he's been contacted by some teams.
Well, the Browns were, he was told reportedly this morning that he was out for the head coaching position out there in Cleveland, but after the Rams lost, Cleveland flew out to Los Angeles reportedly to give him the last interview before they decided reportedly to go with Todd Monken as their head coach. I saw earlier this morning that his plan was to stay in Los Angeles with the Rams and be a more integral part of McVay's staff moving forward, but I think it's a call you got to make.
It's warmer there.
Yeah. No.
Frankie 2196-3 says, how about Kafka? Mike Kafka is apparently going to the Detroit Lions as their passing game coordinator. 11 Imani says, any chance Carmen Brasillo can be brought back, though? We don't know exactly where Carmen Brasillo stands. Unless you've seen something otherwise, Mark, I haven't seen his name attached to anybody.
I have not. I've not seen his name attached to any team, to be perfectly honest with you. Following more from a Giant perspective as of late, but have not seen his name linked anywhere, Paul.
All right, couple other ones real quick here I want to get done. T-Tom13 adds, Belichick should have got first ballot. He's going to get in, but deserves to be first ballot. No end ifs or buts, okay? Richard Armstrong Copy says, between Eli and Belichick, I have no respect for the Hall of Fame anymore. And Vince G18 says, how does Ryan Leaf get a Hall of Fame vote?
That's a good one. He's a broadcaster. I didn't even know. Is Leaf is he a Hall of Fame voter?
No, he's not a Hall of Fame voter. I think what he meant
he got a vote.
Somebody must have thrown him a bone.
Oh.
I'm guessing. I don't know the answer to that.
I have no idea. I didn't even see that. Did Ryan Leaf get a vote?
I have no idea.
Great at Washington State.
Well, the results are not out, so I don't know how he would know that.
He was terrible.
Unless he was mistaken and he was trying to think of the Chargers QB, who Dan Fouts has a vote on the Hall of Fame.
Oh, yes.
Maybe that's what
Maybe. I have no idea.
I don't know.
I didn't see where the votes were made official either.
No. The votes have not been made official, but apparently a couple of people on the committee have told ESPN and others that Belichick is not in.
Right.
And even Belichick has confirmed he didn't get a phone call.
Yes, he did not get a phone call. And he said he was, I think the quote was he was perplexed or something like that. Yeah. As we all are, Bill. As we all are.
We're on to Cincinnati. Thanks for joining us from the Giants Podcast Studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. As always, you can find an archive of this show and our entire podcast network on Giants.com/podcasts and the Giants mobile app. That will do it for today's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. For Marc Malusis, I'm Paul Dottino. We'll see you again tomorrow on Big Blue Kickoff Live. So long, everybody.